Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we are reading Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, and today we're discussing chapter 27.
Real quick, previously last week, Lara failed the second tryout and somehow that became Amari's problem. She attacked Dylan in the cafeteria, and then Amari used an illusion to get back at her and dump some spaghetti on her face. Gang gang. We also learned from the gossip magazine Rumors and Whispers that not only did Madame Du Bois maybe steal designs, question mark, but Quentin has a secret second briefcase. The first one went to Amari at the beginning of the book, as we all saw, and the second one went to Agent Magnus. So Amari and Elsie head on over to Magnus, be like, we know what you got.
What is
Open
the
up.
truth?
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth!
And Magnus confirms that he has a briefcase, but that he doesn't know what's in it because it's not for him. He's just meant to keep it hidden.
That is true
Um,
allyship, holding on to something and knowing when it's not for you,
mhm,
Oop!
but you're holding it, keeping it safe.
mhm. Um, but he does tell Amari that if she passes the finale and becomes a junior agent, then the briefcase will belong to her, so she can have it, as well as help with officially help with the investigation. Um, for into Vanquish and their disappearance. So that's where we left off. Amari has decided she's about to work harder than anyone's ever worked before in order to make this happen.
And
We
she
also
took
asked,
that literally.
she
Whew.
took it very literally,
This has
as we
been her mission since she's had a mission to be part of the Department of Supernatural Investigations. Over and over again, she has to prove herself.
hmm and then we asked, what department do you think Amari should join if she didn't have to be in the Department of Supernatural Investigations to find Quentin? So don't forget to let us know, social media, through Spotify, um, and we will talk about that next episode. So, um, speaking of outworking and all of that, Elsie finds Amari in a study room, having fallen asleep on a book. She's basically been there all night, has not taken a break, and Elsie is not trying to have it. We've seen this before of Elsie like making sure that Amari takes care of herself. And that's just like a good best friend to be like, you know what, you actually can't study forever. Like you need to take breaks and have fun and all of those things, both for your own health, but also like you're not going to do well if you don't ever take breaks. Um, but Amari's trying to get through some like an entire book list by the finale. She's worried she's forgotten stuff from before. But um, but Elsie's kind of like, you haven't forgotten it. You just haven't given your brain time to like think and process and like relax. So basically, Amari ends up going. She goes to take a nap on Elsie's suggestion. She's supposed to go meet Dylan to practice their stun sticks. But Elsie's like, I'll tell Dylan you're gonna be late and you need to go like
Chill.
freshen up, take a nap,
Brush your
relax for a
teeth.
bit because she's brush your teeth. Yeah, exactly.
I really appreciate this from Elsie because I always had a hard time um with studying. It's one of these weird things too, where in school before basically like college, I never had to study and I didn't learn
Mm,
how to study. And then when you get to a point where you're actually like struggling or feel like you do need to like study and put extra effort in, you don't really know the best way to do that. And then you kind of lean on tropes of what you think it should be. Like, you think you should be falling asleep in front of the or in the library that you think that you need to read every single word out of every single book. Um, and I really appreciate Elsie being like, you're doing the best that you can, but also like the way in which you're going about this is not going to get you the results that you need. So like, go take a nap.
Mhm.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um so later, Amari and Dylan go to the training room and find a giant petition posted on the doors with the names of all the legacy parents who don't want Amari participating in the finale.
They can all kick rocks.
Literally. I don't understand, like, don't you get, I mean, I know that there's like public petitions or whatever, like you get asked to sign an online petition all the time. But don't you have to give that to someone? Like, what's the purpose of
Putting it on a door.
putting it on a door to the training?
But
The only purpose
also,
would be for her to walk up and see it.
yeah,
So they know that all of these like grown people with jobs are concerned about her and her business.
it very much feels like that is the purpose. It gives me like I think Portia talked about this before, like school integration. Like, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like all these parents taking time off their job to go harass some children, like when they could literally mind the business that pays. I do wonder though about the bureau, and partially it's like the bureau not really, and or I guess it's the actually as I'm doing this, let me change to this bitch. But not really taking a firm stand or like kind of making it up as they go along. Like when they decided that Amari was going to stay, I wish that they would have looked at all of the plans that they had for the camp, all of the tryouts, figured out what she could and could not do, what was allowed and what wasn't allowed, and then like socialize that around, and then been like, and because I think Magna says like when they are bullying her earlier in the camp, like if anyone's got anything to say, like y'all can go. You know what I mean? Or like Amari saying, it is what it is. I think after they hate crimed her dorm room, actually. And I do feel like there should have been something more concrete so that this would never have even been allowed to happen, because like why is it on the door and why did no one take it off of the door, and
Hmm.
who allowed it, who put it up, you know what I mean? Like there's just all of these things that it's
So
like,
many steps.
yeah, and why did they feel comfortable putting it there? There's
Them planning and thinking ahead when it comes to Amari's involvement in tryouts would involve them actively trying to give her a fair shot, and Magnus made clear last chapter that they actively did not want to give her a fair shot. They did not think she's going to make it that far, so they did not try to plan ahead for her to make it that far. So it's very much in line with that, and so it's just further indication that the bureau, like you're saying, the bureau should take a stance, and the stance the bureau has taken is like, we don't think she's going to get that far, which is really effed up. And then I think the other thing that like for me that stands out is that like these adults are real big and bold to put this petition on this place that they know that Amari is going to interact with, without knowing that she doesn't have a community that can know what she's going through, so they can back her up and put petitions up and call into the bureau and freaking like complain about them. Like they're being real big and bold for like picking on a 12-year-old without a
Hmm.
community to back her, and it's so messed up. And I like, it's just like, it shows cowardice to me. Like you're going to try, like you're not even going to show up to her face, you'd rather put your names on paper, like, so you want to be known for how awful you are and bigoted you are, but you also don't want to like have the like to live out the rudeness to her face, because that would take too much out of you. Like it's just very much cowardly.
Yeah, I mean, I think my thing about it is maybe it's not the bureau, but it is like the chief who, like you said, like I don't believe wants a magician. I'm not going to say Amari, but like a magician in the camp. I don't believe has a firm stance. She's very much gives like moderate, like I don't want to rock the boat. But in even doing that, like she's okay looking like she's not in control. Or like I would think that like Fiona, who's running the trainings or something, you know what I mean? And it's just like because I think the people who didn't believe that she would make it this far are also the people who are signing their names on those petitions. Or like they're not there are some people who are passive, but this also feels like letting the more vocal, cowardly but vocal people take over the bureau in a way that even removed from Amari doesn't look good. Like I feel like if I was someone who didn't know Amari, maybe even was anti-magician or whatever, but wasn't a bigot or hateful, I would be like, this is ghetto. Like, why are y'all picking on this child like this in the door, like in the bureau? Like, why are we leaving
It
like
almost feels
Karen
like an
signs?
authority figure was like, whenever they were like, "What can we do? We don't want her here. What is our next step?" They were like, "We can write a petition." Like, it feels like someone and then like was like, "Oh, that's our next step." Like, it's just weird.
It feels very Karen in a way that I like to believe that people who aren't even really about that life see a Karen and go, that just looks tacky.
Gross.
You look
I mean,
gross.
I
Yeah.
don't know that they do.
I don't feel like a lot of people do. I think a lot of people get annoyed by Karens, but would rather just like let her spout off in the corner than actively try to like interrupt her. But I was gonna say I do think that the petition also is like it gives like I feel like the petition is a way for Van Helsing to have a literal like backup to whatever
Mhm.
crap he wants to pull for like
Mhm.
why Amari like even if Amari is the pass to trial, he can have like one other a piece of evidence in his pocket. Like people don't want her here. Look at how much hate she's gonna go through. She's part of my department. I don't think that she should make it, kind of thing. Like it's giving him ammo that he probably instigated having for it to be like documented and something he can use as evidence later.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um so Amari like asks if they can practice somewhere else, but Dylan says, "I say we should train right in their faces." Um he's not worried about hanging out with her at this point. He's, gotten over that. He teaches her the Helsing technique, which I don't they don't really describe what it is, but it's some special like technique that they have to that they do with their partners.
That
Um,
someone else probably came up with and a Van Helsing stole.
Probably.
You
Or it
know.
was originally one of the magician Van Helsing's thing, but he couldn't say, and
You know.
all of that. Um, so Amari is considering telling Dylan about what she learned about Quentin and finding the key holder. Um, she is a little hesitant because of how like things were weird between them for a bit with like the whole Maria thing. But she reminds herself that they did promise to share whatever they found, so she tells him. Um, and then um and then lets him know that she has to become a junior agent in order to like be able to get into this briefcase. And she's like, there's a whole petition against me being in the finale. Dylan says you have to do it anyway. Prove you deserve a place here, which again is like a thing. It's like a broken clock at this point. Like everyone is telling her she has to prove that she belongs here. And it's like, at what point is that? Like, what is the standard or what's the litmus for that? Like, at what point has
Yeah.
she proven herself? Um, and Amari's like, but how? They'll never let me go on stage and show off my magic. And at that point, Dylan tells her to use his turn. So when they announce for him, he's like, you go on instead. Um and because Dylan's like, I know my dad is not going to fail me. So especially after Lara failed, so I'm like in. And also, if you don't do it, then they're giving him an excuse to be like, oh, she didn't complete the trial because she didn't do her she didn't fulfill all the requirements. So if you do it, then you fulfilled all the requirements.
It's so
So
infuriating that they have to think about ways in which they can circumvent the, like, inevitable pushback for her doing the requirements, knowing that if she gives into them not letting her do like, show off her like, if she does what they want and does not show off her supernatural ability, they will then turn around and say, "Well, she didn't show off her supernatural ability, so she can't
Mm-hmm.
be a junior agent." But if she does show off her supernatural ability, they'll say her supernatural ability is illegal and she did something illegal, so she can't be an
Mm-hmm.
agent. And it's like you said, like the goalposts constantly move, and like what is how do you prove something that people are constantly moving the goalposts so that you cannot prove it? I guess is like the
Mm-hmm.
best way to say that. Um, and it's just you think about the fact that like this happens all the time in life or in like especially these like um closed systems, closed exclusionary like places, but the onus is always on the person being excluded, being marginalized to like figure out. It's like when they ask marginalized people like how do we fix racism, or they ask black people how do you fix what do we do
Mm-hmm.
about racism. Like, girl, I didn't make it up. You think I designed this system to keep me oppressed? I don't know. Y'all the ones upholding it. You tell me, right? And so it's and obviously they don't have an onus to change it because that's what they want, but it just hits harder and different when you're hearing two 12-year-olds try to figure out a way to circumvent like
Mm-hmm.
a systemic issue as
Mm-hmm.
though it's an individual issue. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Elsie comes into their room looking pleased with herself. She skips over to Amari's side of the room where she's reading Sovereign Cities of the Supernatural World and says, I hope you're not planning on studying all day. Um, she's like, well, Amari's like, we're not all geniuses. But Elsie says, um, studies show that cramming the day before a big test is actually worse for you than just taking the day off. Um, But Amari's not really budging, so Elsie's like, fine, study if you want, but promise me you'll keep tonight free. She won't tell Amari what tonight is, and that says it's a surprise, but is like, you have to come. Um, you should, take a break, have fun. This is literally your last moment before you are, doing in the finale or whatever. So,
Run away with us for the summer. Let's go upstate. Sorry. I couldn't get it out of my head. I'd say it.
so she takes most of the morning and afternoon to read Sovereign Cities of the Supernatural World, which she learns about places like Atlantis, the dwarven stronghold of Cibola, an underground city made completely of gold that is located directly beneath Las Vegas. And then when she gets back
That
to the room,
seems
Elsie's
tight.
waiting for her. It does seem tight.
But
Um,
also, it reaffirms to me, like I said in the last episode, that I think that if Amari didn't have to be in the bureau or the supernatural affairs, she should do something diplomatic. If there are sovereign cities, then you have to have diplomats that
yeah.
work at the bureau so you can have these relationships and these conversations.
So Elsie is back in the room with a suitcase and a grin so wide, sorry, Amari knows she's in trouble. She explains that tonight's festivities involve sneaking out. But again, she's not going to say anything. But it involves these most splendid cloaks, which are Junior Undertaker cloaks from the Department of the Dead. Um, and Amari's like, are you sure we won't get caught? But Elsie says, don't worry, we won't be the only ones. So at 8:15 p.m., they change and join a large group of junior undertakers making their way to the elevators. Bertha stops them and gives them a good looking over, but with the hoods over their cloaks, or the hoods over their heads, they all look alike. Um, and Amari's still like, this is weird. Shouldn't she know how many junior undertakers there are? Shouldn't she like be checking closely? But she just lets them go. When they're in the elevator, Lucy gives them a tisk tisk, somebody's being naughty, but she zips them up to the Vanderbilt hotel lobby without another word. They follow the others down a side hall where a bus is waiting, and sign the roll with made up names. So they get to the back of the bus, and Amari's like, where are we going? Maybe now you can tell me where we're going. Like, all this is very weird. But then turns out Dylan's there as well with his Junior Undertaker cloak on. And Amari's like, are there any actual Junior Undertakers on this bus? And he says, a few. Sneaking out the night before the finale is kind of tradition, which then makes all of the other stuff make sense. Bertha not really looking, the fact that there is a bus sitting there waiting for everyone
It's
to
like that
sneak
Lucy
out.
is just like doing a basic tisk tisk.
Right, she's just
How
like, you,
naughty of
somebody's
you.
being naughty, but she's not snitching. They have they have transportation set up for them
Also,
to
that the
go.
elevator was
Like,
Lucy and not the mischief elevator that yells, like, because they
right,
were
like
being thoughtful about that one.
this is clearly a like bureau sanctioned trip, but like the tradition is that
Low
you're sneaking
key.
out, so they make it like seem like you're, in trouble or doing something extra, but they know. Again, it also, again, going back to what we were talking about like them not trying to have these kids be in danger. Like, there are definitely things they could tell the parents, especially the non-magical parents, and that there's like still flaws. But in terms of like taking care of the kids, they have things in place to make sure they're not just like
It's also giving
out
the kids a
here.
level of independence while also having a level of safeguarding and, like,
Hmm.
watching over them.
Yeah. Um. So Dylan comes back to sit with Amari and Elsie and asks if it's Amari's first All Souls festival. Amari hears that as All Soul Festival, and then is wondering if they're going to a soul music concert, which is very cute.
I
And then
wish.
Elsie's upset because she's like, it was supposed to be a secret. But Dylan's like, if it's your first time going, the name doesn't give anything away. Like, you're still gonna see. So the bus leaves the city. They're going down an empty 2-lane road, pass through thickly wooded areas and farmland until eventually the bus pulls off into a wide grassy field. A large crowd is gathered next to the road, but there's no real hint of like what the All Souls Festival might be. The three of them put their hoods back on, get off the bus. Dylan tells Amari to climb on his shoulders. And so she protests at first, but like Elsie's like, just do it. She gets a clear view of the Junior Undertakers, spaced evenly in a straight line, their backs to the crowd. At the center is a Senior Undertaker whose cloak has a high silver collar. Um, the Undertaker reaches into his cloak, brings a whistle up to his lips. He gives it a blow, and the Junior Undertakers raise their right arms in unison. Each holds a baton. By order of the Department of the Dead, working in conjunction with the foremost representatives of Afterlife, I declare before the full moon that this month's All Souls Festival is now in session. The Undertakers point their batons forward. Green light comes pouring out of them, and together they draw a complex symbol of glowing green. The Undertaker says, "Open, says me." And then the symbol flashes, fades into nothing, and then a bunch of colorful scents emerge, spreading across the field. Um, they're hazy and translucent, kind of like they're basically ghost tints.
This is dope, and I'm
It's
very
so
proud.
cool.
I'm very happy with my choice to join
Yeah, I was
Department
gonna
of the Dead.
say, I think you're like, you know what? I
You
messed
chose
with the
the right
Department of the
time
Dead.
to vocalize that you would join the Department of the Dead.
It's
Yeah,
dope. It's dope.
it's super cool. And again, like we've said this a bunch of times, I love that we get the opportunity to see all these different things.
Yeah.
And
Wait,
there's like,
this is sidebar conversation. What kind
mhm.
of festivals does each department get to do their own festival? Like, is this like Department of the Dead's is All Souls, and then like Good Fortune's Bad Omens is a different one?
I don't
Then
know. It doesn't sound like it, but it also sounds like this is more like a monthly like flea market type situation
yeah.
Yeah.
or
I
like
think this
farmers
is
market.
like it yeah, like they call it a festival, but it's also like a time in which the dead and the living can and a time and a place fiction time and place where the dead and the living can like get together and do some commerce. I
Mm-hmm.
also hate the idea of capitalism. Like I'm dead and I'm
Need
still doing
money.
business. I'm still doing business? No.
Yeah, that's kind of out of pocket. Um, like so they go up. We see a ghost who's selling ghostly cotton candy. You can eat as much as you want, and you never get full. Um, And then you pay with Joss paper, which is like a pink dollar bills that you set ablaze and then they turn into ghost money, and then you give it to the ghost, which again, then they have to use, which is unfortunate because they're dead. They should just be able to
Ghost
chill,
money?
exist. Yeah.
No. I worked my entire living life. No.
So they have cotton candy, then they have the strawberry smiles flavored milkshake, which makes Amari can't stop grinning after tasting it. Elsie can't stop giggling after having a sample of the chocolate chip chuckles. Dylan and Elsie dare Amari to try the Banshee ice cream, which seems like plain old ice cream until the urge to shout her lungs out takes over after the third bite. So I would like to try
That's so cute. And also, it's called ice cream.
ice cream.
Ice cream. The branding is top notch.
Once they taste everything there, they go to a large tent called Sweet Dreams. The dreams in here glisten like liquid gold inside little glass bottles. There's a sign that says you only need one sip before bed to ensure you have the dream you want. There's richest person in the world is really popular. So is most beautiful person in the world. There's also sweet, sweet revenge. A group of teenagers swarms the my crush wants to go out with me counter and don't leave a single bottle on the shelf. So there's just
This
lots
might
of
be a good
options here.
question. Like, what kind of spell would you want to have in your dream? I don't know. Because I don't know that I would want, if I could have a spell, I wouldn't want it just for my dreams. I would want it for my waking life as well. Like, I wouldn't just
Yeah,
I would
I'm like,
want
I
a
don't think I
light.
would be that interested in the
I want a
dream.
lights out. No dream, no nightmare,
Yeah,
straight sleep.
just like straight sleep, like all the way REM,
just REM
well
tastic.
rested.
Yeah.
Like a beauty
just a
sleep. I
great,
just want a beauty
great
sleep.
sleep. Yeah,
I want a REM 100.
Yeah,
or
and I want to
whatever.
wake up feeling like refreshed. Like,
Yeah.
wow, I just had a great night's sleep. I feel great.
Maybe
Not,
that's
slept
the
well
spell.
and
It's
I
like
could sleep more.
guaranteed refreshment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
spell.
Yeah. Because usually, even on the days when I sleep well, I wake up and I'm like, I could have slept another couple hours.
Sometimes I sleep well, and it's like so it's been really rainy here. And sometimes especially when it's on rainy days, I wake up and I still feel tired because it's just like it's like sleepy kind of weather.
Yeah.
And it's like if I sleep all day, I'm just gonna keep feeling tired. I'm not gonna feel revitalized. I'm just gonna feel tired all day. So what is the actual amount of sleep you need to get to feel rested, you know?
Exactly.
I also have the I'm resting, but I'm actually not sleeping. My brain is still going. And I would very much like to shut it off, please. Like I didn't
like a light switch.
Yeah, like I didn't feel good most of this weekend. And so I laid down. I felt better laying down than I did standing up, but I also would have really liked to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Woke up feeling better, but if I could buy a potion for that, I'm all in.
Yeah, agreed.
Here on Wizard Team, it's no surprise that we love books. We also love supporting the independent bookstores.
With our bookshop affiliate link, you can not only get all the books on your TBR, but you can support indie bookstores and B&C at the same time.
And if you're not sure what you want, that ain't no problem. Check out our The Plot Thickens list full of recommendations from none other than Porshèa herself.
Head to www.bookshop.org/shop/BlackNerdsCreate to treat your shelves.
Treat your shelves!
Oh, that's nice. That's clever.
Oh my goodness.
That's clever. All right, so Dylan gets pulled away by some of his other friends, leaving Amari and Elsie to explore on their own. They wander down a side street until Amari notices a jet black tent that reads Madame Violet's Magician Gift Shop. So Elsie can't see this. Only Amari can see it. She drags Elsie inside, and that's in the moment that Elsie realizes that Amari wasn't hallucinating. She's like, oh, okay, this is a real place, not just like an empty alleyway. So they go inside. There's a sharp smell of spices. A skinny spirit with long dreadlocks sits cross-legged behind a black kettle. Which this is Madame Violet. She grins from behind the center of the dimly lit space and says, "You couldn't have seen my tent unless you had magician's magic in your blood. You must be the famous Amari Peters. I read about you in this week's Dearly Departed."
I
Um,
love this. I want to hear more about the periodicals in this world. They're all
I
well
know
named.
in Afterlife, Dearly Departed.
I think that,
Um,
first off, I love a good pun, and so the puns names of all the magazines, both in the living world and then the afterlife, are great. But again, someone's writing about this, which means that they go to a job when they're dead. And I find it so depressing that I can't even.
but maybe I mean, well, I don't know. We already have the existence of money because I was gonna say like it could just be like
A passion.
yeah, like I just want to do this, but if you need the money, then maybe not. So Amari's glancing around. There's a bottle marked "Broken Promises," a silver vial that says "Shattered Dreams," "Unrequited Love has a bright red glow," and "Greatest Hopes sparkles in gold." Um, so Amari asks if this is the same Madame Violet who wrote the spell book. And the spirit is like, "Do you imagine there are many magicians named Madame Violet?" She's like, she's basically just like, I'm one of one.
I'm the only one.
So then she says, put the book to good use. Magic is a living thing. It does a dead woman no good. And then she says, "Shall we get to business?" She looks at Amari and Elsie and says, "The knowledgeable girl lacks courage, while the courageous girl lacks knowledge." How interesting.
If that's not a read,
That's a read.
like,
That was
look,
kind of out of
lady, I did
pocket.
not come in here to get read, okay?
I just found this place.
For
That
real, too.
was so
That
out
the
of
library
pocket.
is open. Like, I came into the magic shop, the magician shop. I didn't come to the
Not,
bookstore.
like, please.
I brought my very trusting friend with me into
Mhm.
a place where she could not see. And the first thing we get from you is a read?
It's a read.
Like,
Coward.
Cold.
She
Cold-blooded.
said, "What up, Amari?" And the coward. God damn.
Really out of
but
pocket.
also let me not ever question if you're ever the real Madam Violet
Madam
ever
Violet,
again, because
right.
if your
Right.
response is to read me, like, ooh. Maybe
My bad.
I call that upon myself by questioning whether you were that girl, and that's my bad.
She said, "I am her."
So she says that she'll make a deal. Says if the dragon girl if the dragon girl pays a small price, the magician girl can get knowledge vital to her quest. She explains that it's not the first time she's seen Amari's face. When she was living, she would cast her magic far into the future and marvel at the scenes her illusions would show her. She saw who Amari was speaking to and the spell she cast. I can assure you this is a future you desperately want to preserve. And that can only happen with my help. So Elsie goes to pay, but then Madame Violet is like, I don't money. You want to give me money?
How
Ew.
boring.
She said, I require one secret withheld from a friend. So
See,
he
Madam
she takes
Violet
a
is living a life that I would like to see in this
yeah.
world. Like, let's barter. Give me something good. I don't need your paper money.
Yeah.
I love non-traditional currencies. Like, those are my
Yes.
favorite. Like,
Mhm.
anytime I encounter them in different worlds, I'm like, yes. Like, let's
Give me.
trade in secrets.
Yeah.
Let's trade in uh deals. Like, it's like, and
Mhm.
I know deals are like fey, and I'm like, okay, like that's real hard to
Be a
try not to mess
little
with the
be a
fey too
little
much.
yeah.
Not
The
them too
Fed
much.
knock you out with their deals, man. All of a sudden, you think you just got to answer a riddle, and all of a sudden, you a slave for hundreds of years and alive for the whole time, awake.
You better think real thoroughly about what
Mhm.
you're
Is there a
agreeing to.
loophole?
Right.
Is there a double
Listen.
entendre? Cause you screwed. Ooh, I love it.
um so okay, so Elsie takes Madame Violet's hand, um and the woman says, "Repeat these words. I pledge a secret withheld for a single bit of advice for my friend." Um Elsie nods, repeats the words, and then she explains that when they first met, she told Amari that she didn't know why she hadn't shifted yet. And the truth is, she does know. Were-dragons were once fierce warriors, and because of that, in order to shift, they have to perform a great act of courage. But Elsie's been a worrier and a scaredy cat her whole life. She didn't tell Amari because she was ashamed. And like, as far as secrets go, this is fine. We can
Yeah.
we can get through this one. It's not like, oh, I didn't, remember you asked me that one time that really big important piece of information and I didn't tell you. Like,
Do you want to
this is
know
like,
who?
no.
Want to know who Magic Girl 18 actually is?
Right, exactly. Like,
You remember that time when you got hate crimed in our room? Well, I actually do know
I
who
did
the
it.
hate crime.
Right. Or I did it or something
Or
like
I did
crazy.
it, right?
So like this honestly is like a very so first before we get into it a little bit more, but Madame Violet takes a small net, swings it through the air. She drops the net into an open jar labeled Secrets Among Friends, and then there's like a black liquid that swirls in the vial, which is kind of cool.
I also wonder
Um,
too, because it says like about her like having to perform an act of courage, and it's like what that actually means. Because in my brain, her befriending Amari and like sticking with Amari while Amari's being shunned by so many people is pretty courageous. Like, especially
I
in
feel
that.
like it probably is
I think it's
something that
more
she
like
finds in her
compassion.
own mind as a great act of
Yeah, like
courage. Like she
she,
probably
Yeah.
oh, like
to
she
feel
has
And
to
I
be
think
like,
it's a
damn, I
great
was
act of
brave.
courage. They've got
Yeah,
to like, if she's got to do something
really
grand. It
outside of
sounds like,
her, really outside of herself, or
yeah, and not so much like an everyday type thing.
yeah.
Elsie apologizes, and Amari's like, "It's totally fine. We just met. I thought you were gonna say you snore like a lawnmower on purpose." So they're very cute.
I feel like it's
And
also
then
very much like these are the kind of things you keep to yourself when you're trying to make friends with someone. It's like I don't want to share my
yeah,
insecurities with you when we're first meeting. Like let me
Yeah.
hold off on telling you about
exactly.
the many ways I hate myself until later on when we've developed a
Maybe once
rapport.
we exactly.
Yeah.
Um. So Madame Violet's like, "Here's knowledge that was promised. An illusionist should never trust that which giggles and grins." And so I just feel like this
Duh.
woman, this woman is so funny because first of all, you asked for homegirls like not her deepest secret, but you had Elsie like bearing her soul only to give a riddle like in exchange. That's hilarious. She said you need this information. Like you need to
It is
get this
vital
information to you.
information
It's
is
so vital
important.
for your quest.
You know,
It's
like
so important.
she said, I saw a vision of you and you needed this information in order to do the things I saw you do in my vision. Okay? It is destined. It is
It's so
proclaimed.
vital. Here's this riddle. Here's this really vague little sentence. It's hilarious.
That can apply to anyone.
It can mean anything. Could literally mean anything. Amari's like, "Am I supposed to know what that means?" Madame Violet cackles, and she and the entire shop begin to fade away. She was like, That's all for today. I'm out."
She was like that kid who does the deuces and then just like
Oh, yeah, it fades away. That was literally what she did. Madame Violet said, "I'm out." uh Honestly, I stand. I really like her. I knew I liked her when we read the book. She's hilarious. Um, I hate that for Amari though. Like that makes things not so easy, but that was funny. Um, so soon Elsie and Amari are standing alone in an alley, sorry, between two larger tents. Tents. It's like the shop was never there. Um, and then of course here comes Kirsten's ass with Lara. Kirsten goes, "There she is. I told you I saw her come down this way." So obviously y'all are like, "Oh, we're
they
out
still haven't
having
let
fun at the
Amari leave
festival,
their
and now we're
brains.
gonna go look for Amari so that we can bully her." But like, y'all could be eating ghost candy and
Amari
freaking ice
walks through their
cream.
brains all day, every day, all the time,
It just,
24/7.
it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just like, please
Get a life.
get a life, do something else. Like, I just don't get it. Um, so Lara balls her fists. "You think you can throw spaghetti in my face and get away with it?" Um,
And clearly that embarrassed her way more than she thought about it
Mhm.
embarrassing her brother. Like,
Mhm.
clearly them kids pointing at her and laughing did something to her self-esteem she was not prepared for.
And you peep how she's waiting till she got her alone to
Oh,
even buck up
yep.
Right.
like this. She couldn't do it when everybody was looking at her. Now she got her fist balled
Mhm.
up. She's
'Cause
trying to
what
like
if she goes to hit her and then something else happened and she get embarrassed again? Can't chance that.
Mhm.
exactly. And then Amari is like, "Let Elsie go, please." And then Lara says, "So she can run off and tell someone?" Nope. You're finally gonna get what's coming to you. It's like, are you for real?
This girl needs
So
What's coming
basically,
to
she
me? You're
she
the one with the bad aura.
she
You're
needs
the one
so
with
she
therapy
the
so
literally
bad that
it's
it is,
really
like,
bad.
exhausting.
So Lara literally like attacks her. She kicks out her leg, knocks Amari over, like jumps on her, pins her wrist with one arm, and is about to punch her in the face. Like with her, it's on top of the fact she's using her supernatural ability.
Supernatural,
So
yeah.
she's like legitimately trying to hurt this girl, like for real. Um Amari's trying to get free, but she can't. Her ability makes her too strong. Lara winds up her punch, and Amari panics. She stares into her eyes and screams, "Magnophobia." So, we talked about this all those chapters ago when Dylan showed her this, tried to get her to use foul magic, and the idea of like, if you don't know those spells exist, then you don't use them as your first. So as you're like as you're panicking, she could have used the solace one and nearly blinded her, knocked her back, and gotten
and
up
that would have
right.
been
So
hilarious
there's
because girl would have been walking around blind in the dark with all
come
these
on,
ghosts around her.
come on. So there is like it's a moment of like obviously she's panicked. I am not particularly inclined to be mad at Amari in this situation.
No.
It's self-defense. But using foul magic just in general, she shouldn't even have that in her
Yeah,
repertoire to
I
begin with.
I
Like,
think that's, like, the big thing is that, like, yeah, like, she could have thought of something different and possibly would have, if she would have never been shown this
mhm.
I
spell.
don't want to talk about that magic boy.
Mhm.
However, I do hear the irony in us slightly being
Excuse
hypocritical,
me.
being like, she should have fell back on Solace, like the first spell she learned, and how much we kept talking crap about how the magic boy kept using.
Well, but he
Oh,
also learned other spells that were not. We weren't saying go for the forbidden spells, not Cruciatus, because with the time that he used Cruciatus, he didn't even do that right. Disappointments all around. But she also could have. Solace is more would have been more useful than Expelliarmus. God
well, they
damn
don't
it!
have wands, so yeah,
They don't have wands, but like
they can't disarm that way.
But I'm just saying, we
Expelliarmus.
went in on him
Oh
for being
well.
a one spell
Well,
boy.
God
she's
damn.
only used Solace once.
I
She
stand
hasn't
by
used
it.
any of her stuff more than once yet.
Yep.
She doesn't
Yep.
have a signature illusion yet. I don't remember if she ever does get a signature illusion, but at least at this point, she's still feeling it out. So Lara's eyes go wide, the world shifts around them. Suddenly they're in a big fancy office. Um, Lara's confused. Amari pushes her off of her, and then Lara falls backwards. She's so Lara can't see Amari. That's kind of what she figures out. She's looking right through her. What on earth are you doing on the floor? Director Van Helsing stands in the doorway. His gray suit is wrinkled and he's got bags under his eyes like he hasn't slept in days. It's bad enough you embarrassed this family at the tryout, and now I find you on the floor like a toddler. Um, Lara gets to her feet quickly. Her cheeks redden, her normally cocky voice comes out shaky and uncertain. I'm sorry, I just got confused. Um, so we're seeing now, like, like this is her biggest fear, but the kind of
The
surroundings and
actual
setup of the
dynamics
situation
between
is showing
her.
it's showing the real dynamics between her and her father. And how her father is an asshole to not only people who aren't in his family, but people who are. Which is not surprising, but we're getting to see that. So Director Van Helsing shakes his head, shuts the door behind him, and goes behind his desk and says the phone call should be coming any minute now. Um, Lara nods, takes a seat at the front of the desk. The phone chimes. Van Helsing answers on the first ring. Van Helsing just keeps nodding and saying, I understand, over and over. When he does hang up, there's a stunned look on his face. and then he says, well, yeah, he covers his face with both hands and says, "She's gone, sweetheart. Your sister has passed on." Um, Lara lets out a terrible wail and falls to her knees, and that's the point where Amari's like, "Oh, like I messed up. We need to stop this," and she breaks the spell. And like in that moment, she's feeling bad because Lara's worst fear is also Amari's worst fear. And so she's apologizing.
Oh, like real quick though, as the vision vanishes, Kirsten leaves. She
Oh
flees.
yeah, she did.
Mhm.
Kirsten is
She's not about that life.
Oh my god. Oh my
She's like,
God.
Lara's gonna break out of this, and she's gonna want to touch someone, and it's not gonna be
She said,
me.
"I'm out. I'm out." Right, which leaves Amari to be the only person to like hug her and be like, "Are you like? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, or not. I didn't mean to, but I'm sorry." Lara pulls free and says, "Stay away from me," and then sprints out of the alley. Elsie and Amari look at each other, but they don't know what to say, and that's the end of that chapter.
Listen, she shouldn't have had that spell as like her the first thing on her mind. That shouldn't have been the one that she used. It was traumatic. You should have been talking shit.
Not even talking shit. Like, he was actually about to fight. She was trying
to punch. She was trying to punch my girl
with a supernatural ability punch. So it's not even like a regular punch.
Yeah,
the game is the game. The game is the game.
She, fuck around, find out. I feel bad for Amari.
No stuff.
Won't be no stuff.
No stuff.
I feel bad for Amari. I know that we talk about she's empathetic. She's a sweetheart. She's probably feeling like I wouldn't want that to also my worst fear. I wouldn't want to know I wouldn't want to go through that. I wouldn't want to put someone through that.
And I
feel bad for Lara.
Yeah.
No.
What did New York say? Like, do you think I can? No.
I don't. All right. MVP of the chapter. Oh, we're
all united in that one.
Mm-hmm.
In Elsie, best friends for life.
Listen,
it's so great.
I love y'all. We talked about this. Ride or Die asked questions. Elsie asked questions and still ended up in that tent.
Yeah,
but at the same time,
I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm here. I'm with you.
At the same time, she also was like, I will give you a secret. I pull out some cash. Sure, I will give you a secret. But you know what? She was very thoughtful about her secret. Again, it was very inclined, self-reflective. She might have had a bigger secret to tell, but she didn't tell it. So she was very smart about which secret she chose to share.
But I also feel like Madame Violet was dropping some clues too. She was like, "Your cowardly friend, a secret for a friend."
Yeah, she did. It put it right in her head, forefront of her mind.
Here we go.
I'm like, that's what my thing was like. What does this lady see that she's holding? Like, what does she know?
Right.
That Elsie is holding.
I will say, Madame Violet is an honorary MVP for me. Just the messiness is honestly, I love it. It's great. Benched. I said the Van Helsings as a unit because Lara's out here bullying Amari and her brother, and then literally is about to throw hands, like is trying to physically harm Amari. Dylan put that damn spell in her head in the first place. So he's gonna have to sit as well. And then Director Van Helsing not only raised these kids, but is like terrible to them too. So it's just like, and he's probably the ringleader for the petition. Like he's like, they can all,
and we still don't know where the mama at, so she could also
right.
The mama is in cover-ups, too busy trying to figure out who used up the credit card bill, and not but also not busy enough trying to figure out who used the credit card. So
come on. So they can all sit down together, and I'm sure they'll be fine.
Yep.
I benched Director Van Helsing because clearly he is an abuser, and he inflicts his own insecurities onto his children and shows to them that the answer to your insecurities is abuse, and therefore Lara and her how she acts is not a big question mark. We know exactly where that comes from. She takes out her insecurities on others rather than finding peace within herself or trying to find other answers and other ways to work out the aggression that she feels for being abused upon. And then with Dylan, he not spoiling, but with Dylan, he clearly aligns himself with Amari as a magician because at least someone can share in the pain that he feels knowing that he's a magician and seeing how everyone, including his family around him, would reject him for being a magician. And that's like the only outlet he has for it. So his kids can even be like his kids to him because of how awful of a person he is. And even the fact that Dylan I don't the way that Dylan said that like he covered Amari's streets on his dad's like cash wad, it makes me question if he like I know that he and his dad aren't on good terms right now, so did he just steal a whole wad of cash from his dad and then roll off with it? Like I just feel like he's taught his kids very inept ways of coping with their emotions and because he is not emotionally stable himself.
Baby's kids. They bad. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. I waffled back and forth between what was just gonna be basically Lara, and I ended up with the chief slash the bureau, and that was mostly because of, like I said earlier, just not having any kind of, and I'd say this about the chief more. I'm gonna just do the chief. Look at this, so we're going full circle. I'm gonna talk myself into a binging the chief because I get the sense from her that she doesn't actually want to villainize Amari. She doesn't actually believe that Amari is bad. If she felt more confidence in herself and her position of power, um, she would stand up against Director Van Helsing, against these more bigoted people. She would have really thought through and given some groundwork and ground rules for Amari being a part of this camp without having to go so far as to like completely sanction magicianship because she doesn't really feel comfortable with magicians, right? That's fine. Um, but this like limbo that they allow Amari to like go through this camp with, not only with every single person feeling comfortable to tell her that she needs to prove herself, chief included, you need to prove yourself, you need to prove that you belong here, blah 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 blah, but also in like not knowing how do I do that? How do I prove myself? What is allowed? What isn't allowed? And then on the same end for other people, what is allowed and what isn't allowed when dealing with these trainees, was dealing with Amari, who has a special kind of ability, right? Like we saw with the way that she kind of held Elsie up as like being um non-human and kind of like singling her out, making her kind of a token. Um, this misguided but like ability to really like raise these kids up and like uh you know set an example of how she expects these kids to be treated, and she doesn't do that with Amari, and I think that a lot of that just comes from not having the backbone and not having the courage to stand strong, like wanting to figure out what her convictions are, because I don't know what her convictions are, but to figure that out, stand strong in it, and then as a leader, as the chief of the bureau, making sure that everyone, whether they agree with her or not, knows where they stand and what is and what is not acceptable, and harassing a 12-year-old is not acceptable, period.
Y'all don't watch Adventure Time, but there is a character called Lemon Grab, and he says unacceptable in a very fun way. And I don't want to ruin your ears by saying it in the way that he would say it, but this is very unacceptable in the way that Lemon Grab would say it.
Well, boom, it is unacceptable. Agreed. Um,
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna share the link with y'all of what he sounds like because it's perfect. And with that, thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week for chapter 28. Don't forget to answer our question. What department do you think Amari should join? If not, supernatural investigations. We cannot wait to hear your answers on that. I would love to hear some very creative thoughts about that. Let us know on social media, or if you're listening on Spotify, you can respond in the app with your answers and let us know your thoughts.
Wizard Team is brought to you by Black Nerds Create. If you want to keep up with our other content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Twitter at BLKNerdsCreate, at Yana, YANA, wrote it, Robyn_Rambles, ROBYN with a Y, and at Porshèa, PORSHEUH. You can follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Black Nerds Create. Subscribe to our monthly magic newsletter, and do not forget to rate and review this podcast. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.